Tell me about some of your friends when you were growing up. Your girlfriends, boyfriends
Well,
in
let's see.
Kansas City.
In Garden Grove, Iowa, I had one very good friend called Nadine McClung.
What did you do with Nadine for fun when you were kids?
Well, Nadine had an older sister who was just like her mother. She wouldn't let Nadine out of her sight scarcely unless she went along.
Mm.
So, but I was down to their house a whole lot more than she was up to our house.
What did you do for fun? Did you go to the movies or?
Well, I learned to ride horseback because they had the livery stable, Nadine McClung's people. And I learned to ride horseback. And in the wintertime, Nadine would have a sleigh hooked onto their horse, you know, and we would drive out into the country. And one time,
They didn't have movies then, I guess, really.
One time we got into such deep snow that our sleigh tipped over and landed us out onto the snowbank.
Oh, gee.
But
But you weren't hurt.
no, somebody must have come along and straightened our sleigh. I don't remember except we were scared.
What was school like in those days? Did you have to study really hard?
Oh, you mean from the... I went to kindergarten, which was very unusual. And
Oh, yeah.
our school had a kindergarten. And her name was, our teacher was Manima Kennedy.
My goodness. Just think of that, remembering that after all these
Mhm.
years. You must
She
have
was-
liked her very
Oh,
much.
I did. I loved her. And in the wintertime, when it was so bitterly cold, and they didn't have cafeterias in school, so Mama would pack a lunch and send it to school by Uncle Henry, who was the colored man in that my father kept. They lived real close, he and Aunt Jane, to our home there in Brunswick.
Did you go swimming with your friends in the summertime?
Once only I did, into the Kaw River, and I nearly drowned.
Is that right? Because you didn't know how to swim?
I didn't have, but this man was trying to teach me to swim, and I must have fought him off pretty much because he didn't succeed very well.
That's too bad.
Papa had asked him to try to, to teach me to swim.
What about ice skating in the wintertime?
Not in Brunswick.
Oh.
That came later in
Kansas
Iowa.
City. Oh. Okay. Well, let's go on to Iowa then, or even Kansas City. You went on to high school in Kansas City, didn't you? Manual training high school?
Let's see,
Was that-
Iowa came before Kansas City.
Right. But where did you go to high school? Was that in Iowa?
Kansas City.
In Kansas City. And the name of your school was Manual Training
High school,
High School.
There
What
was-
did you... Go ahead.
There was a school right across the street from 3001 Benton, and I started in high school there. I mean, in 7th grade there. But that was when I got very sick with typhoid fever, and so I never went back to Benton. I had already graduated from Ward School before we got there.
Ward School, that's another name for grammar school or
Yeah, grammar
elementary school.
That's right.
What did you study in school?
Which school? Manual? Training?
Yes, manual training.
Well, as you know, manual training is sewing and cooking, and then the boys had carpentry work.
Okay.
So I took the first year sewing, and I began Latin and algebra and English.
Any science?
sewing.
Did you study any science?
Not in the first year, I think. Botany, I guess, came second year.
Mm-hmm. But later on you said that you studied physics, I
Yeah,
think.
third year.
Mm-hmm.
I never had chemistry. I was always sorry.
Did you like school? pretty
Oh,
much?
I always just loved school.
Who were some of your best friends in high school? I can't remember. You mentioned Clyde not too long ago. Of
Well,
course, he didn't go to the same school you did.
no. Oh, Frida Kornbrod
Mm-hmm.
was my best friend. And her father had a shop where he made things like gutters for houses, tin
Mm-hmm.
things. We often stopped by his shop on our way home. We walked home a lot. From 15th Street clear out to 3001 Benton.
How long would it take you to get home?
An hour.
That long? And also going to school in the morning.
I nearly always went on a something, streetcar, I guess.
Trolley.
Mhm.
Did you go out on dates with boys? when you were in
Not
high
until
school?
I was about a senior in high, I guess.
Why was that? Were you just not allowed to, or it just didn't happen?
Well, girls just didn't
They just
date
didn't.
that young much.
Uh-huh.
Of course, for the senior party, we did have dates, and that was about it, at least for me.
Tell me about what kind of clothes you wore in those days. Can you remember? How are they different from what the girls wear today?
They were longer than the girls wear now, and nobody thought of wearing pantsuits.
No.
They didn't have them. And
What about shoes?
shoes? We had heavy, they called them galoshes. They buckled. The tops were cloth, and they buckled around your ankles
Oh, yeah.
to keep the snow out.
Mm-hmm. And the dresses were about ankle length when you were in high school?
Oh, well, no, not
Not
that
quite,
long.
not quite ankle
Not
length.
for children.
Oh, when you were older, they got longer.
Yes,
is that right?
when I went to Stevens, they were quite
When did the
long.
boys start to wear long pants? Was that a mark of their growing up, or?
I don't remember
don't
that.
remember.
Most of the boys I remember wore them just below their knees.
Kind of the knickers?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
knickers.
Uh-huh. What was it like getting meals in those days? Did you help Minnie in the kitchen much?
Not in Brunswick. I was, I guess, too young. We could stem blackberries and raspberries and gooseberries.
What about when you were older in Kansas City?
Yeah, in Kansas City I helped a lot with the meals.
Mm-hmm.
Peeling potatoes.
Didn't have very many packaged mixes. in
None
those
at
days.
all. Mm-mm. Even our flour and our sugar we had to get from barrels.
What kind of a stove did you cook on? Do you remember?
A wood fire.
How did you get it the right temperature? Say you were going to bake a cake. How would you know when it was the
We'd
right
just put it
temperature?
in a hot oven and let it.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
Sometimes they turned out well, and sometimes they didn't, or
Well, most of the time I think the cookies turned out all right. I don't remember very many layer cakes, except just one. Mama had baked this layer cake, and in the pantry she was standing icing it when she fainted.
oh my.
She fell over backwards, and like that scared me to death. I happened to be right there with her, and I ran out to call for help. I didn't know what was the matter with her, but she was pregnant, I think.
Oh,
And
how
that-
old were you when this happened? Do you remember? Quite
Well,
young?
let's see. Real Oh, I must, about 10, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So it turned out she was expecting
Mhm.
Wallace or
Mhm.
Josephine at the
Wallace.
time.
Wallace.
That's funny. How about cleaning house? What kind of equipment did they use to clean house in those
Well,
days?
not vacuums. We didn't have them. We had good old dustpans and brooms.
And the carpets? How did you get the carpets clean?
Once or twice a year. Of course, they swept them in between times.
Mm.
But once or twice a year, the carpets in the whole house were taken up and put on the line and beat
Oh.
with, well, they had regular carpet beaters.
Uh-huh.
They were wire with a handle on. And
And then the air was
every-
full of dust.
I can see that dust flying yet.
Mm. Quite a bit,
No.
quite a bit different in those days from the way it is today.
Yes, indeed. Think of the wonderful inventions that we have now. We're spoiled.
Of course, you had hired help, though,
Yeah.
didn't you? How many? How large was the staff? You
Well,
had Aunt Jane and Uncle
Henry.
Henry,
Mm-hmm.
and were there other people on the staff to help cook
Well-
or laundress, or people who just came in once a week or something?
Yes, to do the laundry. Mm-hmm. Now, this was in Brunswick you're talking about.
Yeah, Brunswick.
When
or
we moved to
Iowa.
Iowa, we had nearly always a white girl living with us.
Oh, you did.
Uh-huh. And let me see, she was a Dutch, Gretchen was a Dutch girl.
Mm-hmm. And what did
And-
Gretchen do?
Well, she,
A little bit of everything.
a lot of everything. Huh?
And then in Kansas City.
Well, this was in Kansas City I'm talking about now.
Oh, I
I-
thought you said Iowa.
Let me see, well, maybe it was in Iowa.
Well, it
No.
doesn't really
Mhm.
matter, but you did have some hired
Yes, we
help at
always
that
had
time.
some
Mhm.
hired help, nearly always. Then we had Charlie Shelton living with us. That was Mama's brother. We nearly
Mhm.
always had one of Mama's sisters there.
Oh, is that right?
Nora, Etta, or Jessie.
Uh-huh.
From time to time, each one of them lived at our house.
Tell me
This was
about
my second, my stepmother.
Yes, I know.
Mhm.
Okay.